Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Hello, and thank you everyone for being with us again this week. Today, I have an amazing guest, a woman who has accomplished so much in her life, but also, who has so many different experiences that you would want to sit with her for hours and actually ask questions and pick her brain. It seems like she knows a lot about a lot of different subjects. But today, what we're going to talk about is she is also the queen of podcasting. So she started that about 10 years ago. She now has over 2,000 podcasts and in 18 different genres. So she knows what a podcast is. But what I love about her is that she chose to start that journey really because she wanted to help people better themselves, and she wanted to, I'm gonna not gonna tell her story. I'm gonna invite her right now. Hi, Sara.
Hi, sweetheart.
So, Sara Troy, what happened 10 years ago that made you say, I'm starting a podcast? Because right now it's quite a popular subject.
hmm
But 10 years ago, I didn't know what a podcast was, and a lot of people didn't know what a podcast was. So, what brought you there?
Well, it's 10 years in April 22.
Okay.
And I actually had invested all of my money, all of my time, my heart, soul, and spirit in a new technology. And it was a quantum physics electric motor. I knew nothing about the motor, but I just knew where it needed to be and the person that was doing it. And I'd gone down several year journey with that, only eventually for someone to steal it and for us to be bankrupt and for me to kind of bottom out. And it's like everything I've invested in has gone. Who am I now? What's my purpose now? And I desperately need to be a person in purpose, otherwise I feel nothing. And I was at a deep depression. And when I'm in depression, I have to help other people, otherwise, because it's a form of helping me. And so I wrote an article and I read out to some people. And somebody saw that and went to my site and said, I think you should be on my podcast. And I go, my podcast network. And I go, what's that? I had no idea, online radio, what do you mean? you know, how do people tune in? And she taught me into it. The first show I did, because it was all live, was I pressed all the wrong buttons. Everything went wrong that could go wrong. I call it the Monty Python skit for those that are old enough to remember what that is. And and then it was like, well, it can only get better from here. And that 13 months was an excellent lesson. I call it the soap opera training because in soap operas, they're thrown in quick lines, one or two rehearsals, you're it. And I had to navigate people being dropped or me being dropped in a show or people not turning up. And, just it was a whole huge navigation that was a wonderful training ground. So then I decided to go out on my own, which was also another training ground. I didn't have how do I do this? So I've always been a person, don't wait for it, click, click to be perfect. Go with it and you'll perfect it along the way. And I started that June of 2013. And I consider it an honor. I've got to interview you twice, and you will humbly shared your story on sobriety, which is very brave of you, but serves so many people, and so many people are listening to that show, and I know it's helping them. And that's what it's all about. This is my meaningful purpose. This is my service, bringing people to you who are making a difference in your lives. Why? Because they made a difference in their own life and now they're sharing. So I'm where I'm meant to be, but it was a rocky road getting here.
Yes, I imagine, because that we were talking about that a bit earlier about purpose. And like I said before, I hit rock bottom. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. Like I was very driven in life and I was very result oriented. But when people would ask me, so what are you in life? Like describe yourself. I was a mother. I
Yes.
was sure that I was a mother. And
Yes.
then I could give my professional title, but really my purpose, it was just like, well, I need to raise my kids, you know?
Hmm.
So, and then as your kids grow older, you're like, they don't need me that much. So
Right.
you start thinking more about like, what is my purpose? And actually, what I love about, the new generation, the millennials right now, I feel like they know that word way younger than I
Yes.
did.
Hmm.
They're already like my 13-year-old will talk about like what's my purpose, and I'm looking at her like, oh my goodness, that didn't come to me before I was like 30.
Hmm.
So how did you find your purpose? I know you jumped in a project, but when was a moment that it clicked like that is my purpose?
Well, I mean, that first year was, quite a roller coaster because it was like, well, is anybody listening? Does anybody care? Should I be doing this? And then there was just a compulsion. I have to carry on. There was no money to be made out of it. If you're going into podcasting, do not think about becoming rich, famous. It does not happen. Very few people ever make money out of it. Um, but it was something that the stories that I was sharing were just so compelling that I knew they had to be heard. And it was like, okay, I'm just, I interview ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and I'm an ordinary person. And the extraordinary thing I'm doing is bringing people to you who are willing to share. And I've always been a person as a spiritual counselor, even as a child, I was counseling teachers without realizing I was counseling them because I'm a knowingness coach. I know what I need to know when I need to know it, and I have no understanding what it is I need to know, but they will understand it. And I was just that conduit to tell them. And so I've always been that person. And it was me trusting myself, allowing myself to just go down this path and explore. I had so many people telling me, you've got to do it this way, you've got to do it that way, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And it's like, thank you, but I'm not Oprah, I'm not Deepak Chakra, I'm not this person, I'm not that, I'm Sara. And the only honest way I can do it is do it Sara's way, right or wrong. It's at least honest. And I think be honest with yourself. Why are you doing it? Is it coming from the heart? And when the heart connects with it, then you know you're on the right track.
I love it. I love it. So basically, you just describe what authenticity is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing it from, the heart, like you say, you will find success. And again,
Mm-hmm.
success is like everyone has their own definition. But for me, my definition is that you're successful once you're at peace with yourself, you're at peace with what
Yes.
you're doing, and you're happy to get up every single morning. And you're like, yes, another
That's the
day.
true enrichment. That's the true abundance. If money matches that, hallelujah. But if you're driven by the money first and not the enrichment and the abundance of what it gives you and what you give others, then it's a very poor business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And there's another thing too, for those out there who think like, well, why would I share my story or whatever? We all think, everyone thinks, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure even like the biggest celebrities and the ones who wrote the most remarkable books that we know now, when
Yes.
they did it, they were like, why am I doing that? Who's gonna read me? Who's gonna watch me?
Yes.
Who's gonna listen to me? But like Brene Brown says it so well, your challenges right now, talking about your challenges right now will be someone else's survival guide eventually.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
so true. And for me, that's why I started sharing a bit because I come from the era that when you talk about yourself, you're bragging, you know?
Oh, it's all ego. Who do you think you are? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So once I let go of that, even if
Yeah.
it's not let go 100% yet, I understood that sharing each other's stories with each other, that's what will help us grow. And you can see that we do it as girlfriends, when you're
Yes.
around a glass of wine or whatever, a supper. And then there's always one that will start talking and kind of like going to fish for opinions and ideas. And because I do feel like we need that connection of
Yes.
like sharing with others. And I remember actually when I was a younger mom, you know, um, getting mad. My son did something and I was mad inside of me, and I could
Mm.
not get mad outside because that for me was not a good mom. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I could strangle him. And just the idea of thinking that
I know.
devastated
We've
me.
all thought it. There
Yeah.
isn't a
And then,
mother out there that hasn't thought about it. Doesn't mean we
well,
don't love them. It's just at that moment they're pushing all the buttons.
exactly. And it's not that you would do it, but I remember after like sitting with a bunch of women, and one said something like, "Oh, I could strangle him," and I'm like, "You do?"
Yes. Yes.
You know, so it's really good to share and have different people's perspective. So let me ask you about your depression a little.
Mhm.
How did you, because I know that you went through it by finding your purpose and you got better. How do you stay better?
Well, first I have to go back to that as a what they call a sensitive, a spiritual seer and reader of life, you know, conduit. Hypersensitivity means that you're always picking up other people's feelings. And I actually interviewed a psychic the other day, and he said, "There's something wrong. What is it?" And as he said it, like tears came to my eyes, and I'm not one to cry, you know.
Wow.
And it's like just all the disasters that have gone on lately have just weighed me down so much because there's only so much I can do. There's only so much light I can send. And there's only so much encouragement I can ask other people to do, but I wish I could do more because you really are feeling all the anguish. And that very, very much is what led to my depression of just wishing I could do more, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless. It's also clinical, which I developed later, fibromyalgia, which is a part, depressive is a part of that, and it's part of the anxiety, part of being hypersensitive. So in just facing that, not beating myself up for it. I've done a lot of articles on it, like, do not tell me to snap out of it, right? The worst thing you can do to someone that's in that depression. And it's also understanding that while we're in it, we really don't have much control over it. It's like something that's taken over of it, us. And we've got this huge hole in our gut that's just like a rabbit hole that you're going down. So I eventually found some medication that anything else was just too strong for me. And I had one case going back many, many years ago where I was put on this particular drug and it made you psychotic. And I thought I could fly. And I'm driving in South Africa with my dog on an open sports car. And there's a huge turn, a cliff, sheer down to the water, but you could just pull over and look over. And it's a beautiful sightseeing, but they never put any bars around it or anything. And it was a great suicide place where a lot of people just drove off. And I'm thinking, I can fly. This is what the drugs have done to me. And my dog barked at me, and I barked back at her. Then she touched me, and I touched her. And eventually, she threw her entire body over me. And as she did that, because I was driving stick, I came out of gear. I came to a stop and realized my tires were on the edge of the cliff. And I snapped right out of it. I don't know how long I sat there. I don't know. I was shaking. The dog just poured herself into my lap. Bless her. She saved our lives. I will never forget that. Border collie, by the way, very in tuned. And I had no intention of going over the cliff, but I thought I could fly. And so very often these drugs that are out there, they were taken off the market because too many people did fly, you know, and it was a bad drug. So it took me years to find that one that would just take away the edge and the rabbit hole. But I don't take them all the time. I only take it when I feel, this is too much for me to cope. Other than that, I have found a way, music. Music is huge. I'll put the headphones on, play music. And what I learned about music is there's a frequency in it that actually literally can change the chemistry of your body. That's why we're so drawn to music. It's the frequency in there that can go in there and bring back the equilibrium, bring back the balance within you. And along with deep breathing, along with the music, even breathing in rhythm of the music. And I'm not talking about heavy metal, folks. I'm talking about, and it also doesn't have to be kind of meditative music, but music that really allows your emotion to go with it, reach a height and then come back down again. It brings you like a wave into your balance. The other thing is be around animals. They really know how to absorb that and to love you. Children, they know. And nature. Let the trees speak to you, let the ocean speak to you, let the wind speak to you. When we tap into these things, we realize we're not alone and we're tapping into that beautiful divine energy and it brings back our equilibrium. So there's always ways to do it, but it's being aware and the big word is allowing it.
You're so right on that. And it is also being conscious of it because
Yes.
it's an
And not being
everyday.
apologetic for it either.
No,
Right? Yeah.
exactly. But it's an everyday occurrence. Like it's
Yes.
not like you will get up one morning and you'll be different. And
Right.
I know for a bit because I've been like, I think I've been suffering from one of the worst depression, which is a mild depression,
Yeah.
which is something that doesn't stop you. You
No.
can be very highly productive,
Yeah.
but you still have always that, lingering.
Undercurrent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And quite often, a lot of people actually suffer from that, but
Mm.
because it's so undercurrent and because you still can do your stuff,
Yes.
you don't seek any help.
No.
So, please, if ever you feel like there's something inside of you that is not okay and hurting, ask for help. There's
Yeah.
tons of resources out there. But I want to come back to one thing that you said that I really liked. You said, I really followed what I felt and my
Mm.
intuitions. And
Yes.
yes, we're not all psychics like you, but I
But
do
we've all
believe
got
that
intuition.
yes, and
Yes.
I do believe that women we have it even stronger.
Yeah.
And when we say mothers, like, oh, it was my
Mm.
mother intuition to say no, I don't know why I said it.
Yeah.
We listen to it more, but what tricks can you give to actually like
Mm.
follow your intuition better?
I'm a knowingness coach, so it's how to live into the knowingness. And we get this gut feeling. Why do you feel that way? I don't know. I just know. That
Mm,
is that divine essence, that divine energy speaking to you. It will then come to your heart in resonance and truth. Not necessarily understanding, but resonance and truth. It then be given to your spirit into action. And your mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. We have to understand from the head up, it's academics, it's intellectual, it's database, it's knowledge. But we don't always know how to access that knowledge in the moment that's going to serve us. That's what comes from the knowingness that I don't know why I know, but I know. And you don't need to verify, justify, or anything else with it. You just need to go with it. It will reveal its wisdom, its truth. When the mind, heart, soul, and spirit is in sync with each other, you know. It's like a deep breath. I just know. No, it's okay. I don't need to explain. I just know. And then you just do.
yes, yes, you follow. And I feel like as we grow older, we tend to trust it more.
Yes.
There's so many decisions I made that I knew they were wrong, but
Hmm.
because on paper they were all
Yeah.
okay, I followed the logic. I followed what, people were saying, what the logic was saying, but inside I knew, and now I can say that at, a bit older, I don't do that anymore. It's like now when I feel it, I'm like, someone's talking to me. Maybe it's just, whatever,
External chatter.
external chatter or whatever. But, I do follow this intuition because it's so important. And I feel like we really have the answers within us.
Yes. Yes. If we just allow, take the ego out of it, take this self-importance of, I've got these degrees, I make this money, I'm this and that, no, just that is an achievement that you've had, right? And some people achieve literally by the guts. Everything they've done is by the guts. Other people, they've been very methodical and kind of methodical, and it's worked for them. But if you are especially a woman entrepreneur or trying to set something up with a new team or even change the way your business is run within the corporate business, it's tune into self, not the head. That should always come last. Feel your knowledge. Don't think your knowledge alone.
And what would you say to, and I'll tell a little story after, but what would you say to someone who is trying to do that and it's not necessary an entrepreneur, but they
Right.
work for someone
Anyone.
or they have to justify their decision, but their only justification is their gut.
I think when you step into the knowingness and your gut is there in sync, heart, spirit, and then the knowledge, you can articulate why. Right now, if it's just, I just got a gut instinct, when you haven't gone to the brain, then you haven't gone to the brain to extract the knowledge you need in that moment to do. So if it's like, I've got this feeling, it's very strong, it may be not clear right now, but I know that that is the wrong direction. And I know that there is another direction we need to go into. We've just got to be willing to explore. Come explore
Hmm.
with me. Be invitational for people to take that journey.
Yeah. My first experience with that, actually, I was running a big organization and we were putting up together a cancer walk. And it was the first year. And there had been a tentative the year before made by, a few people together, and they had raised like $15,000. So we're sitting down, and the number 100,000 for me just came like
Mm-hmm.
almost, I could see it blink. It was just
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm. Your
um,
clarity.
yeah, but I said that in front of the board of directors, and they're like, "Why 100,000?" I'm like, "Well, it's really my gut feeling right now."
Mm-hmm.
And they just laughed at me. They're like, "Wow, that's the way to make decision. Your gut feeling. Can you explain more?" But I was just like, I was a bit speechless at that point because I
Yes.
was like, I don't know. How can you justify something when it's a new event? So yes, after I went
Yes.
to get some facts and did like, oh, this one did this, this one did this, this one did this, but it was just, and by the way, like we surpassed it, we
Yeah.
almost doubled it. So
Yeah.
my gut feeling was right, but it
Right.
is hard to explain, to people who are very logical around you. So yeah, come up with
And I
facts and
think when you come across that logic and say, you know what? How about you give me a chance to research why my gut feels right?
that's a good
Right?
one.
Because they're going to demean you, but where are the facts? I'm in the process of accumulating those facts. I'm in the process of putting together why this is going to work. Allow me to go through this process and then I'll represent.
Where were you back then? Where were you? So, Sarah, you also spoke that you coach people. So,
Yes, I don't
um,
do so much of it now, but now and again. But I have been basically by God's design all my life.
because you're just a natural helper. You just go
It's
towards
a
it.
natural conduit. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to have that conduit as well.
We all do,
And
darling. You just have to open the channel, tune in.
I was going to say, I actually went to see a psychic, and when I walked in there, she looks at me and she's like, "You're one of us." I'm like,
Hmm.
"What?" She's like, "You're a channeler."
Hmm.
I'm like, "What is channeling?" I don't know. She's like, "It's okay. It's coming to you. It's coming
Yes,
to you." So
yes.
pretty awesome. Um, so what's in the future for you? Because I know there's amazing projects coming.
Yes, I am one to take on too much. Um, and I only have certain capabilities. And when it comes to, I'm a seer. So I see the end results. I see the why it needs to be done. And I even see who could be a part of it, which energies. But I'm not always the good builder, right? The structurist. And so it's I've always been looking for that, the structurists that are able, and then the people with the money to help the structure in order for it to move forward, because you need all of it in order to build. But a few things are happening in 22. One is that I have made a promise to write my own book, which, as you
Yay.
talked about earlier, talk about that vulnerability is I'm very vulnerable on my shows. I'm very honest, with things I've gone through. I was going to write an entirely different book. And then my daughter sat down with me one night when everyone gone to bed, and she reminded me of a story that I told her, which I think I told her when she was a child. And I was at boarding school, I was 11, and being asthmatic, I couldn't do the physical things that others could do. And my dad had just died. And three girls dragged me by my hair and dragged me out into the garden where they had dug a hole and they were burying me like a weed. And a stupid thing was is they buried me right outside the principal's window, right?
Thank
So,
God.
and it kind of came to me. She said, "But Mum, why aren't you talking about that and how you survived that?" And then a saying came to me: "Is they may bury me, but they don't know I'm a seed."
Hmm.
So that will be the title-ish of the book, and it is about as a spiritual person, as a psychic, as a empath, a seer, whatever else people want to call it, of how much people wanted to bury that in me because it just wasn't acceptable. But for a while, it was about this seed nourishing the other seeds around me. And then it came time that I could grow myself. And so the book will be around the suppressions and the redirections, and then finally my own growth.
I cannot wait to read that. That's going to be amazing. And, I know it takes a lot to write a book about yourself because
Yes.
it's different to throw in parts of your story here and there when you interview someone, but to
Yes,
sit down,
I know.
we all go through like, who wants to read my story? Blah,
Yeah,
blah. So we all go through that, but I know it's going to be amazing. And
thank
you're
you.
so right. I think that that's what attracted me to you when we met, that I really, really appreciate, is that you do treat everything as like, yeah, bury it if you want. It's a seed. It's just
Mhm.
gonna grow. I'm gonna become better than this, because you
Yes.
have this positivity and this, energy oozing of you always. And it's probably that. I think that, fighters, when some things happen and we become a fighter, we also, you have different ways to deal with it. You can really, go into the corner and go into a ball and just wait that it passes, or you can stand up and be like, uh-uh, I'm gonna get out like stronger after all of this. And I think that that's exactly what you did. And that's pretty incredible.
I said
So,
there's an observation before we go on, and that
mhm.
is that I fought all my life to exist in the eyes of others, to be seen, to be heard, to count as who I am, not what anybody else wanted me to be. When I stopped fighting and started living from love, love of self, love of who I was, love of why I was, love of purpose, I didn't have to fight anymore.
How did you get there?
Allowed, allowed. I use that word a great deal, but I think it was, I realized the fighting was taking too much energy. It's like, the war on love or this, that, and I don't want to bring those words into it. They have negative connotation. I am a person that has to come from the heart. My heart just keeps jumping out of my chest. It's who I am. So why am I not living from love? Why am I not embracing and doing everything from the love space? And then I realized that love energy is abundant, and it will give you so much more than the fight. I don't need to fight anymore. I just need to step into love.
And I think that the probably, if I'm thinking about me, the hardest person to start loving quite often is yourself.
Ha ha.
Yeah, haha, I touched a point there. So I
Because you see
remember
yourself from everybody else's eyes and not your own inner soul. Right? Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's funny, I'm part of a book that will launch in 2022, and they asked us to write one chapter, 365 words,
Mhm.
pretty precise. So
Yes,
to
that's very
write
little.
something, yeah, it's little and you want to write something. But anyway, I wrote it about, after my separation, my best friend took me, um, on my birthday. She took me, she's like, I have a surprise for you. And I thought, because we kind of do each other quite a few tricks. So I was just like, oh, she's going to bring me to jump off a plane or something, because we
Yeah.
like to challenge ourselves to, and she's like, and you have to do it and you can't say anything. And I was just like, okay. I was nervous. And yeah, I was going, and in my mind, it was just like jumping out of a plane, bungee jump, like
Mm.
everything that I didn't want to do. And she brought me to a studio. So she had booked a a photo shoot for me.
Right.
And it's actually the picture that I'm using now everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, but the article that I wrote, the chapter that I wrote on that was all to say, I wish we would all see ourselves through the eyes of a photographer, because they
Yes.
always adjust the lighting. They
Yes.
adjust, the wind that they
Yes.
blow in your hair.
Yeah.
Everything is adjusted to really go get the best out of you.
Well, they show you from the inside out, the
Yeah, well,
reflection of you, right? Everybody's caught up with the exterior. What you wearing? What's her makeup like? But when the true essence of you shines through, right? It doesn't matter. You could be wearing a sack. your hair could be a bird's nest. It's not, that's not what people see anymore. What they see is the love of self, the confidence, the essence of who you really are. And a
Yeah.
good photographer will bring that out in you.
Well, and honestly, in that photo shoot, at some point she came to bring it out of me that she made me feel like, yeah, you deserve to be there and blah, blah. And I
Yes.
started thinking to myself, like, oh my goodness, look at this picture. I'm good looking. And for me, that this is like, it was completely, absolutely new.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole thing was to, if we could only see ourselves
Yes.
from the eyes of the person who love us and forget
Yes.
all the comments of the ones who, will say stuff. Everyone will
Yeah.
say stuff,
The,
always.
if you can't please, if I think one of the biggest detriments, there's three of, several of them. Don't compare. You're uniquely yourself, and that's all you're meant to be. Everyone else is taken. Don't compete. Life isn't a competition. Leave that to the sports or games or, song competitions, whatever. That's where it is. Also, do not apologize for being you in all your flawsomeness. It's all those beautiful flaws, all those mistakes, all those wrong directions. Every time you've had to get back up, that's made you the beautiful person you are today, the essence of who you are today, more resonant, more approachable, and more a person that somebody wants to be around. So don't apologize for your story. Don't apologize for all the wrong decisions because they led you to the right ones. And you're still going to make wrong decisions for the right reasons, right? So this whole thing, I got to be perfect for everyone else. That exterior point of view in business, in life, in love, in any aspect is a soul destroyer. When you tap into your heart and soul and spirit and you become from that space, the essence of you will be embraced by those that feel that resonates with that. And that will be the beauty they see. One size does not fit all. Be your own unique self, and you will speak to the people who are ready to hear you.
That is so on point. If you speak to everyone, basically no one will listen. But if you are speaking
It's
because, well, when you try to speak to everyone, you miss most of it.
it's
But
just
when,
generic, right? It's not hitting, it's just not hitting the core,
hmm
right? Because it's too blanketed rather than having something that really can kind of shoot right through someone's heart and go, oh, I felt that,
yes,
right?
yeah, and it took me years to understand that, but
Mm,
because it seems like the moments that I open up about myself, or when I was drinking and I was talking too much, like these these moments were like when I was the real me.
mm,
And then people were like, "Oh my gosh, it was so cool to learn that or know that." And that's what, eventually it really sunk in. And I was just like, it's okay to just be me. But the fact is, I'm not going to be liked by everyone, but no one is liked by everyone. And it's just like you have to fall in love with yourself.
yes,
And
yes,
I
yes.
found that, it's funny because I do my dream board every year. And one year I had pictures of me. And, people who don't know me, I don't like to have pictures taken of me. So, like, my kids barely have pictures of me. I don't let people take pictures. But I had pictures of me, and my goal that year was to fall in love with me, which
Right.
was very weird to say,
Nope.
because, uh, yeah,
Be the love you seek.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's been a process, and I'm pretty much there, I would say. But it was a process, but it's so liberating to.
Well, we did a show on your sobriety and your journey there. And the one thing that I do know is when a person is drunk, their true inner self or their inner demons or their inner whatever comes out. And if you've got a happy, talkative, drunk, then that's a person that wants to come out and hasn't found the confidence to do it without the drink. Then
Mhm.
you've got the people who are angry and hateful, or just want to beat someone up because they're miserable with life, and the drink brings that out in them. It's a revealer, right? And I think one of the things you can do is actually video somebody who's drunk and play it back to them when they are sober and just show them who they are at that time, good or bad, and say, who is this wonderful person that is so confident and chatty? Why aren't you like that all the time? What's in your way? Or who is this person that is so angry at the world? You can't run from that anger. No amount of drink is going to make you run from that anger. You have to face the anger. And we've all got demons inside of us that we have to face. We all have got these feelings, I'm not good enough. Where does that come from? Society's dictation and expectation of what we should be. Take all of that should and throw it away and just realize you and your essence on your beautiful signature is you are meant to be, because you are going to serve the people that will feel and resonate with you for who you are.
Absolutely. And I actually, you reminded me of, a friend that I had. We just lost touch, but um, every time I would confide a lot in him, and every time I would say something, I would be like, I should. And every single time he was like, you have to bring me that book. I was just like, what book? He's like, that book of shoulds, because
Yes.
I never read it, and I don't really know the full list. So next time, bring me back this book. And he, by always saying that, I eventually was just like catching myself saying, I
Yeah,
should have, I should do this, I should be this. And he was always like, I want to see the book. And who
right.
wrote that book? And
Yeah.
guess what? There's no book. So maybe that should be a project in the future, reading the book of should.
And
But
where does should get you? Tied up in a pretzel, tied up in a knot, trying to please everybody. Be this for that one, be that for that one, and this one and that one, and society says that one, and who do you lose? Yourself. You never
absolutely.
find yourself, you never be yourself because you're on the should train.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're
Take a different
so,
journey.
yeah. See, people, when I told you she was so interesting and full of wisdom, like we could talk for hours and go from parenting to whatever subject. Sarah has the great answer. So, Sarah, if people want to follow your podcast, and I should say podcasts with a
Mm-hmm.
S, how can they find you?
Simple, selfdiscoverymedia.com. Selfdiscoverymedia.com. All of my shows are up there. If you go to what's new, it's what the current shows are. Otherwise, you can go to a podcast on the tag there, and that will show you all the different genres. So if you're interested in mental health or choose positive living, their story matters, music, veterans, children, sensuality, your health, mental depression, and business, whatever genre you're interested in, you can click on that and you'll find the shows under that particular genre. And I normally bring you anything from, 4 to 5 shows a week. Um, they're, and sometimes they follow a theme all of their own. And other times it's, just beautifully diverse. And I interview anybody as long as it comes from the truth and the core of who and why they are. It's got to serve mankind or serve the planet or serve the animal kingdom in some way. So, one thing I think we're really important to realize, folks, we're all here in service of one another. We're all meant to work together, and we've all got a beautiful instrument that we're looking for the right orchestra to join, right? And that orchestra doesn't just play one tune. Together, you can make some incredible music, but you first got to hone in on your own instrument. So, what is that gift you've been given? Open it up, be present with it, and allow it to happen. And if you're needing help on that, I have people like Caroline here who has shared 2 shows with us now on how to do that on selfdiscoverymedia.com.
Wow. Well, there's not much to add. You know, Sarah, you were such a pleasure to have. Again, really go listen to her shows. Like, first of all, I love your accent, and second of all, it's all like really good topics. And like you said, it all comes from the heart, so you will find yourself somewhere in there. And sometimes we go to a place and we listen to something we don't even know why, and then after listening to it, we're like, oh my goodness, I needed that. So
Yes,
that's what
yes,
I love actually about podcasts.
yes.
Some days I just go on YouTube and I click something and I listen to it and I'm like, wow, I really needed to hear that. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And just, sorry,
Yeah.
just a little point. I
Mhm.
do have Sarah's view of life shows, which are purely my own, with no interviews on that one. And that each week is a different perspective of what I'm bringing, to the table. So it's 100% Sarah. And yes, I am on YouTube and I'm 14 audios on 4 sites. So whatever way you're listening, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, this, that, etc., you'll generally find the shows there.
So selfdiscoverymedia.com,
Media.com. Yes. If you go to there, the links to everything else is there.
and I will put it with the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sara Troy, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for
You are
inviting me.
very much appreciated. And to everyone out there, thank you for listening, and we'll talk next week.